Hey, check out this really neat live edge slab table. We did some incredible effects on this. This is our ocean blue metallic that we've actually put in all the cracks and crevices. We're going to show you in this video every step necessary to take an old slab. This was actually just a piece of oak and turn it into something that is just fantastic. Please watch the video, look at the figure in this wood. You can see all the tips and tricks, and you can learn how to do this yourself. This is an amazing product. It's called Stone Coat Countertops, and you can visit us at stonecoatcountertops.com. Enjoy the video. Okay guys, what we got going on here today is we have this old oak slab. It's going to be a size of a coffee table slab, and it's got a lot of highs and lows in it. It's kind of rough. It's been beat up. It needs some love, and so we're going to give it some love today. We're going to plane this down with our jig here and our router. This jig is a real simple design, and I'll show you how it works. We have some casters on the bottom of this jig, and the casters ride our runners here on the table, and then they lock in the sides of our runners, kind of like a roller coaster will lock on the rails of a roller coaster. So that's what the casters do, and the casters are independent of touching the table. Everything just floats right on top here so that our router will then go perpendicular to the slab. We're gonna just run our router perpendicular to this slab, and we'll flatten the top, and then you could flip it and flatten the bottom. So that's our first step. We're gonna get this going. I'll show you. We just take our router. I built this jig just right to fit my router, and I set my router bit to the lowest point on the slab. So you just measure to where the lowest point, it happens to be right here, and we just make our router bit touch that section, and then it will go through and flatten the entire slab. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go through and flatten this. It doesn't take too long. I just want to show how uneven this piece of wood really is. This was a real high point here, but if you can see here, there's a big crown in this slab. So there's a lot we're taking out of here in the middle. But man, this is just, it opens up the slab. It really, you can start to see some of the figure in the wood. I know you can see the router marks and stuff at this point, but a guy like me gets really excited getting to see this thing. It's going to come to life. You can see I misgauged my low point here. So this is actually my low point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish cutting this to where it's at. And because it's a small slab, it's no big deal. I'm just going to come back and lower my bit to this section, and it'll actually give me kind of a cleaner cut because I'm not removing so much meat on the second pass. So we'll do that. We'll finish this, and we'll just lower our bit. Just, you know, it's about an 1/8, a 1/16 maybe, but we'll lower it to our low point here, and because this had a pretty big crown and stuff going, so we just misgauged our low point a little bit. So we'll fix that on a second run through. As you can see with the router, I'm only cutting the one direction. I'm not cutting this way and then moving the jig and cutting coming back. I cut going away from me. It spits all my debris away from me, and then I move my jig. The jig, it rides really good on the wood, and so sometimes it may want to kick a little bit. So I'm not doing a full bit width at a time. I'm doing about 70% overlap, so I don't get a bunch of kickback. So that's what I'm doing as I'm using my jig here. Okay. Man, this is what we were really looking for. I thought we were going to tear this bark out, but I think I'm going to leave that in there, and we're going to go around each side of it. We're going to fill in this. Now see all this fur, like there's like little pieces of fur and stuff in here. We're going to take our tool, our Dremel, and just get in there and clean that up a little bit and widen those up so that our our blue will get in there and just really give this thing some character. Man, this thing came to life. It's going to be really a neat piece when we're done. A lot of character, a conversation piece. But we got it nice and flat on this side, and we're going to continue working on it. All right, so I'm just going to take the Dremel and get in here and get some of these fibers and stuff out of the way so that when we pour our accent epoxy in here, it'll really have somewhere to go. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these lines from our router bit. We're going to use a 5-inch metal sanding disc on my grinder with a flush mount attachment. I have those listed on our website as a link to where we get them at Home Depot there, and you can just go see what we use here in the video if you like what you see. Okay, we are ready for the next step on this slab. This is going to be the real fun part. What we have here is we have a product that is a polyester resin, and this is actually made for a number of different applications, but it's designed for seaming granite and stone and stuff. It's really a hard, neat material, and it dries fast. It is stinky, so if you don't like the smells, you're going to want to use our Stone Coat countertop epoxy for this step, but the reason we're using this is because it dries in 30 minutes. So we're going to be able to work right through this slab and get it done. And it's very thick. It doesn't run. It's not going to level. This is a material made for filling these big cracks. If you want a clear resin for this, we do sell a casting resin that's made to fill big voids up to 1 inch thick, and you can do multiple pours. But in this case, this is the right product to use for us because we're going to get rid of this yucky, ugly yellow color it comes in. We're going to add our Stone Coat countertop metallic blue, ocean blue to this. And I know some of you at home are going, what are they doing? But we're going to accentuate these cracks and make it look fun. So let's go for it. So we're going to add some metallic to it right now and show you just how easy this stuff mixes in. So I'm going to pour some of that powder in there. And we may add more. I want it to be really rich. I want it to pop on this table. This is going to be more of an art piece here. So we're just going to mix this in, and you'll see how it will tint this polyester just quickly. It makes it look just really cool. And again, this is our ocean blue. We have tons of metallic colors to choose from, and they're fun. They're fun to work with. You get these looks, and you can see. Is that picking up how that reflects the light? Excellent. I mean, it's just neat. So you want to mix in your color before you mix in your hardener on this, because you don't have a lot of working time with this product at all. Oh yeah, look at that. That is just reflective. I like that. Now I'm going to take this color and scoop it off. Put it right into there. And I'm just mixing that in. And I think I mixed a little more than I need, but I don't want to run out of this color when I'm trying to fill some of these bigger voids. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a lot of this blue overlapped where these cracks are. And it takes a while to grind this off. It's kind of sticky, and it really fills up your pads. You're going to have to go through a couple of pads, but the work is worth it in the end. You're going to get just an amazing look here. So let's go ahead and add some hardener. This is our hardener cream. It's 2% by volume, but obviously it's not a accurate science. It doesn't matter really. It just is going to make it go faster or slower. But the The important thing is to get it all mixed in. You got to get hardener throughout the entire mix, or else parts of it won't mix, but it actually mixes super easy. So now I'm on the clock. I have about, in this temperature, it's 64 degrees here in our shop, and I'm going to have about 12 minutes. Okay, so I got all that polyester sanded off. We've sanded into our blue. It's kind of matte finish now because we sanded it, and that's all going to come right back when we go and put our clear Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy seal coat on it. When we do our seal coats, we're going to do probably 3 seal coats, and what that means is we still use the same Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy Part A, Part B. All right, we got this all sanded off with our grinder. Now we're going to use our belt sander, and we're going to go directional with the grain, because you're going to have little swirl marks from that grinder sander, and this will get those swirl marks out, but it'll still be a rough grit. We got an 80 grit on here, and then we'll go from this to a 150 on a random orbital. Let's get started. That from moving anymore, and I'm going to just fill in all these big knots, and we don't color it obviously when it's on the bottom, but this is a really good seal on the bottom of this slab. So that's what we're doing here, is just filling this in, getting it all stable, and using that same polyester to do it. Okay. So I'm just going to sand this edge here with my random orbital. We got the bottom all sealed. I'm going to sand that edge just to get rid of my sanding marks from my other sander and make it nice and smooth to the touch. Now that we got the underside, we have it flipped and we had it sanded from this angle, I'm going to flip it over, sand the edges from the top side so that we get all the edges nice and smooth, and then we're going to sand the top with 150 on a random orbital and then 220, and then we're ready to start our seal coats. Let's go. We got this slab all ready for our seal coat, and what we're going to do with our seal coat is we're going to mix up 8 ounces total of Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. We're going to use this squeegee to spread it out nice and thin is all you need. Thin to win on this. And then we're going to take our hand, use some extra epoxy, and just rub it on the edges so we don't waste a brush here. But it's going to be really cool. It'll start to bring this to life and show you what you're going to see. We're going to do 3 seal coats and 1 flood coat. We can wait about 6 hours when this is still tacky and do another coat if we chose, or we could wait till the next day and do another coat and just sand with 220 grit in between if it's not tacky any longer. Let's get started. Alright, I'm going to take my part B, put in, this is about 8 square feet of wood slab, so we're going to make 8 ounces for our seal coats. Alright, we're just going to pour that out on our surface. squeegee that out. And look at what that's doing right there. Look at what it just did. Can you get close to this blue to show them what that beautiful contrast is going to do there?
Wow.
This material really brings your wood to life. Like you can see where I did it versus where I haven't. And that is just something gorgeous. I love this. This is one of my favorite things to do. Alright, so I'm just going to take this squeegee and just mix this all together. Get it all spread out. I'm not going to go over the edges yet. And I'm pushing with some good amount of pressure to move this around. You can see how it's milky white, but as soon as you spread it out, it turns clear there. That's just because there's a lot of air in the material right now. You can see this piece of wood we actually got from our slab yard where we buy a lot of our slabs, our big tables that we make for conference tables and those kind of things. And they were actually going to throw this piece out. They said it was worthless, and I says, let me see what we can do with it. And I'm sure glad we did, because you can take just any gnarly piece of wood and have fun with it and turn it into something gorgeous. And that's what we're doing here. So I'm just doing and you can see that 1 ounce per square foot is a good rule of thumb for your seal coats. It gives you plenty, because you don't want this thick on here. If you have it thick, it'll start to bubble because the wood is porous. And you'll get bubbles that you'll pop with the torch and they'll keep coming back, and that means you have too much material on there for your seal coats. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking my squeegee and I'm going around the perimeter, and I'm just letting a little bead of this Stone Coat Countertop epoxy go right over the edge. And so that's what I'm going to use to start to spread it. But now that I know I have enough for the top, we'll start working on those edges. Boy, that is just gorgeous. You can see the grain in this. The grain just moves other directions. It's really coming to life. I'm not a huge fan of oak, but wow, I really like how this blue is contrasting. It's going to look like something that you see out of a magazine or something when we're done.
Blue lightning.
There you go. So you can see I'm just letting that material flow over the edge now. You picking that up on camera?
Yep.
So that's just going right over the edge, and that's giving us material to come back and rub the edges, and those all get coated. And then this extra material that's on the top, let me go around the sides one more time just to give myself enough material. Look at this piece of bark that was in there. I'm glad we didn't tear that out.
Yeah, no, it's certainly worthwhile keeping. Doesn't look like the same piece of timber, does it?
No, it doesn't. Lee, will you take the camera and just get some close-ups for them?
Absolutely.
Now your seal coat is not going to lay out like glass. It's not intended to. It's just designed to start to seal the pores of this wood. So that's what we're doing with it. You don't want to leave it on thick. You want to leave it on nice and thin. And each seal coat you can leave a little thicker if you want to, but we just do 3 thin coats and 1 flood coat. Alright, now I'm going to take my hand and all these drips here, you watch, I just use those to coat those edges. Now you can see how, you can see the drip marks. No, it'll penetrate and darken the wood, and it will all disappear and look like it's the same color. Just use your hand to brush those in, and it's amazing how accurate your hand really is. Now I got a little extra here, and I need to get in these cracks and crevices, so I'm just using some of the extra off the surface to do that and paint those in and get all these cracks and stuff filled. And this is how we do a seal coat. We are ready for our next seal coat on this this table here. We're We're going to show you exactly how to do that. If you want to come in close and show there's a bunch of little, it's starting to look really cool, but there's a bunch of little dots and voids where the air is not letting the epoxy completely seal. And that's why you have to do seal coats, especially on wood. And oak is an open grain wood. It's very porous. And so we have to seal these pores before we do our flood coat. So that's the purpose of sealing it over and over. This is still tacky, so I am just going to apply our stone coat countertop epoxy right over it without sanding because it's still tacky. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to pour some of this out and use our squeegee again to spread it around. And again, we mix about 1 ounce per square foot in order to do a seal coat. And just squeegee that around. And you don't want a lot of material. You don't want a big heavy buildup. You want just enough to start filling in those holes, those pinholes, and seal this up. You need to get it all filled in before you do your flood coat. If you still have pinholes, you need to seal it more, because those pinholes will cause you problems when you do a flood coat, and it won't look really, really perfect. It won't lay out super flat because you'll have air coming through and want to create like a void or a bubble. And so that's why you need to seal it, and that's really important. And then if you get it sealed correctly, you are going to get an unbelievable outcome. Just makes you look like a hero. This edge looks really cool because we've left a lot of the natural edge right on it. Anything that wasn't sharp just stayed on it, and it's looking really neat. You're not going to get it really, really flat. Don't try to on this coat. All we're doing is sealing those pores. All right, guys, we've got our seal coats done on this really cool wood slab. Now, depending on the species of wood that you're going to use, you really got to make sure that it's completely sealed. Some species of wood, like oak, that's really porous, is going to require 2 to 3, maybe even 4 seal coats. But again, you're only using 1 ounce per square foot on your seal coats, so you don't need a lot of material to seal them, but because it soaks in that material, the pores will leave dots sometimes. And if you don't fill these, you're going to have a problem on this flood coat. Now I want to show you what happens. We've got multiple seal coats on this, but we're going to get a close-up of this hole right here. Now this is a really neat piece because it has this bark right here that we've actually filled with the blue, but this pinhole right here is giving us fits because the material just keeps soaking in right there, so we have a hole. Now there's a couple of things that we can do in this situation. What we're going to do to fill this is we're going to use what's called a burn-in stick, and these are really, really neat. This is actually an easy burn-in stick. You don't need a burn-in knife, but Mohawk makes these, and these come in really handy for filling little pits like this. So if you would come in, all I'm going to do is heat this up, and then I'm going to rub this burn-in stick right here in this knot. Now because this is like a walnut color burn-in stick, this is made of like a really, really hard wax type material. We're going to overfill this, and then we'll just sand it flush. So I'm going to do this on camera, and we'll show you how it works. So you just heat it up, and then you just simply kind of rub it in there. I'm going to do it again. Heat it up, and you just kind of draw it in. You want to make sure it's going to fill that hole. There we go. I'm going to fill that in, and then I'll show you how we get that excess. I actually have another one down here. There's one more pit that's giving me troubles. Oh, here it is, right here. There's a little pit. So I'll heat that up, and then I'll just go over that. Now I need to take this excess off, and I'll show you how we do that. But I'm going to examine this piece, just make sure there's no little pits that are still giving me trouble. And then when we do this, oh, here's one right here. Here's a perfect example. Can you get this on film right here? That little hole, do you see that? So we're going to fill that in. So you just overfill that, because you have to stop the material from leaking through those little pinholes. Okay, so I got a straight edge razor blade here, and what we're going to do is we're going to scrape off that excess wax, and because I'm going to put another coat, this is the time to do it. None of these scratches are going to show up, but what it's doing is it's removing the wax from the high point on this, and it'll just leave it right here where those pinholes are. So I'm just going through and keeping the razor blade at a 90-degree angle to my slab, and I'm just scraping off that excess. Okay, let's go down here and do this one. So we got some pretty good buildup right here from that stick, and I'm just gonna scrape that off, and you can see it's getting rid of the high point of that hole. So now, once I have that, oh, here's a little drip that I got on there just from heating it up. So I'll just scrape that off, get all that residue off, and scratching it up is no problem because we're gonna sand it down anyways. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a Scotch-Brite pad. This is a maroon Scotch-Brite pad. These come in real handy. They're almost equivalent to about a 220 grit sanding disc. And what we do is we'll just come here and sand the rest of that burn-in stick off the surface so you don't have any of it left on the surface. And so I'm actually just sanding kind of in that too so that our resin, our Stone Coat countertop epoxy, will have something to bite to. But I'm going to go ahead and sand this entire surface with this maroon Scotch-Brite. You could even use a 220 grit sanding disc just fine too. But this works really good. And you're just deglossing the surface, which creates a mechanical bond. It creates something for the material to stick to. All right, so when you are sanding your slab top, a lot of times when you seal the edges, you'll run your hand on them and you'll feel a couple burrs and sharp things kind of sticking out. So right before your flood coat, you're going to want to remedy those. And just take your 220 and just go through your edges. And you know, people see with their eyes, but they also see with their hands. And so they want to feel it and feel it perfect. And so just go through here and just rub your hand on it. Make sure there's nothing that's jumping out at you as unnatural or sharp or rough. And if you do this right before your final flood coat, you're gonna end up with a real nice finished piece. So that's what we do, is we'll just go through here and kind of feel what may or may not be rough and remedy that right now, and then you don't have to worry about your final coat being rough. But that's what's so important about your seal coats, is you want to get the edges real good, you want to get the top sealed. Doesn't matter if it flows out even, it's all going to be even on this coat, but this just really helps it finish real nice. See, all that's real smooth. I could dig my fingers in here and it all feels good. Like right here is kind of rough, so I just do that. Oh, there we go. It gets rid of the sharp high points. And one thing to keep in mind is when you're about to do your flood coat, you know, all the scratches, I'm just taking 220 by hand. I'm going with the grain here, but you will not see any of these scratches. They hide real well. So don't worry about scratching it up. It's actually a good thing. You're going to create that mechanical bond. I really love how this blue turned out. Now that we filled those with the burn-in stick, this is just going to level out beautifully for us. Okay. So after you sand it all down, you need to wipe that dust off. I just got some of these blue shop rags. We'll wipe off that dust. We'll blow it off, and we're ready for our final flood coat. All right, we got our Stone Coat countertop epoxy all mixed up. You can see that it's white in the camera here. Now the reason it's white is because we've entrained a bunch of air into it by mixing it the way that we do. The smaller amount that you mix, the more you'll entrain air, but with our process of our torch, it'll clear out great. So don't worry about your material if it looks like that. That's how it's supposed to look. It's no problem. Just make sure your material is warm when you mix it. Right now, it's, let me see, it's 73 degrees in my shop, and so it's a perfect temperature, and the material has been sitting in the shop at that temperature, so you want to make sure it's acclimated and warm, and then you're good to go. So don't let this frighten you. You don't want to leave this in the bucket for a long time. It'll generate heat and it'll cure and expedite your curing process on the material. You won't have a lot of working time. So get it out on the surface. As you see me here scraping the bucket and getting all the material out in the center of our piece, you got to make sure that you're going to use that trowel and the brush, because those things mix it again. And so yeah, I got some material, and the risk of scraping the bucket is you can get material in your big mass here that isn't fully mixed. But that's why we do a trowel and a chopping with the brush. It's just insurance to make sure everything's mixed just right. So that's what we're going to do now. First thing I'm going to do is take my trowel and spread it out. And this is the same way you do stone coat countertops, is you're going to do your decorative color coat and then your final clear coat, which is emulating what we're doing here. So I'm just going to take, because I mixed some stuff right there, I'm just going to kind of move this around, and that helps to mix it up. You can see I'm not getting near the edges right now. I'm just troweling through this. Now I'm going to take my material and start to spread it out of the piece. I'm not going towards the edge yet. I'm just getting the main body of my piece troweled out. And then I'll start working closer to my edges. And what I do is I use the leading edge of my trowel here just to get it close, and then it'll start to go over the edge. This just helps spread the material where I don't waste a bunch over the edges. And that's really important. You want to use the correct amount of material, but you don't want to use too much and waste your money. Another thing to keep in mind is you got to use this 1/8 by 1/8 square notch trowel. It just saves all the guessing of exactly how much to leave on the surface. This does the work for you. We found that this size is just perfect for not wasting material, but getting enough out so that it will level correctly. So now I'm just going to go back to my edges. So this, I'm just pushing a little bit of material right over that edge. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow me to brush my edges, and it gives me just the right amount of material. So I'm just kind of pushing that along, just so it starts to go over my edges. And that's what you want to do in both stone coat countertops as well as live edge slab tables. You don't want to start doing this right away, because you want to get it all out on the surface first. You want to gauge that all correctly. You don't want to waste material, because the material is not nearly as thick on the edges as it's going to be in the body of your piece. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm just going to go back and forth. Okay, what we're going to do now that our piece is all troweled out is we're going to take our bristle brush. This is our nylon bristle brush. We've de-shed it, and we're going to start to chop. You can see these trowel marks, and all these trowel marks are in the piece because we haven't started to torch those air bubbles out yet, but I'm going to just start chopping this piece. And what that does is it breaks up those trowel marks. It makes it look natural, and then you won't see any iridescence of trowel marks or anything like that in the piece. So it's important when you're doing this just to do a natural pattern. It doesn't need to be geometric. Just go through and chop. And you can see I'm using the heel of the brush. I set the heel down first, and this goes when you're making Carrara marble or anything. Don't start with the tip, hit the heel, and it spreads those bristles really good, and it does a lot of surface area very quickly. So that's a good little technique to remember, is just heel first on the brush when you're tapping that down and chopping. And make sure you look for loose bristles. You don't want to get loose bristles in the piece and miss them. Pull them out with a little pair of tweezers, or we use 23 gauge pin nails, that sort of thing. Almost got this thing chopped out, and then I'm going to brush those edges. Okay, so we're just brushing the edges out. All that material that we pushed over the edges is available to us now. So that the material is there. You don't need to grab more material because we've pushed it over. Now it's got all these drip marks, and we're going to just push those drip marks horizontal with the piece. And that just spreads everything. Get in all those nooks and crannies, and just you know, you're going to do these edges a couple of times, just back brush them. But right now I'm just covering up any areas where I sanded and all that. We're just going to put a fresh coat on this. And this thing's just coming to life for me. Wow. I'm really going to like this piece. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see all the air bubbles entrained in there. Now what we're going to do is get our torch out and remove these air bubbles. This is going to take a few passes, which is totally normal. but it'll start to release that air, and then we'll come back and do it again, and it'll take about 3 times, and all that air will be out. So let's get started. So you can see how quickly it does lighten it up, but you can still see some air, and that's totally normal. We're going to get rid of all that air. And it really starts to lay it out. The one thing you don't want to do is sit here and work it until that air is gone, because you'll burn the material. You're popping the surface on top, and that rest of that air is going to work its way up. So don't sit there and try to force it out. Come back to it. Be patient with it. You can see I'm working different parts of the slab. I'm not sitting in one spot. Oh yeah, this is going to be cool. We'll let that sit for a second. I'm going to go through now, and I'm going to brush those edges again. Just get those edges nice and smooth. You're going to get rid of any drip marks. See, sometimes in these nooks and crannies, it'll grab the excess off your brush and just create like a drip. So make sure you don't go real hard against those nooks and crannies. Just kind of baby those and brush them out. And on our last, when we're all done, I'll grab my hand and I'll go through here and rub all this with my hand just to make sure I get all of it even and done well. Now those spots where I filled with the burn-in stick, first of all, you can't see which one I did because I used a walnut color. It matches the pits and grooves in this piece, but it's totally laying out flat. There's no, you'll know if you missed the spot when you were supposed to seal it, you'll know right away because it'll be a little crater that happens and it just never goes away. And this one's going to lay out perfectly. Yes, sir. Okay, so this second pass, it's clearing it up even more. Just waiting a few minutes like that, and it lets the rest of that air come up, and I'll probably do this a 3rd time. Good. So there's definitely a learning curve when doing and finishing slabs like this. It's not hard if you know the right steps and what to expect, but we always suggest starting on a piece that, you know, is a scrap, or learn how to use the material. But if you watch these videos, we're not holding anything back. We show you exactly how to make unbelievable finishes on something that you can do right from home. And man, this is just, to me, this is a work of art. I've enjoyed making this piece. I've enjoyed making this video for you guys, and hope you're seeing what we're seeing here on camera. I mean, this piece is just gorgeous. You'd be proud to show this in a home show. You'd be proud to sell this to your customers. You'd be proud to put this in your own home. So another thing to note is, yeah, we used blue in this piece, but you can use any color of epoxy you'd like. You can change it up. You can make it more iridescent. Whatever don't let what we do in these videos hold back your creativity. Think outside the box, and that's really where you find the gems, is just go for it. And this piece, it was a piece of trash. Somebody just gave this to me at our slab yard, and we've turned it into something that has been one of my favorite projects that we've worked on. So we'll continue to torch this and show you what it looks like here in a minute when we got it all set. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing these pieces is I'm torching it a lot up front in the pour here, but if I continually torch this after my working time dissipates, this won't lay out perfectly, because what you're doing is you're creating air movement on the piece, and that air movement will create ripples basically, and if it's starting to want to gel, those ripples won't want to lay out really fast, and they won't they won't lay out like glass. So get your air out in the beginning on your final flood coat, and then walk away and enjoy it. And check on it, make sure nothing dropped in it or anything like that, and watch the piece. But no, this is important to get the air out, but then enjoy your piece and leave it alone. Don't keep torching it. All right, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video and this tutorial on how to take an old slab and turn it into something just incredible. We're really proud of this piece. We appreciate you watching and supporting this video. Please comment below. Please give us a like and a thumbs up. That really helps get us higher in the queue. And do us a favor and go share this with your friends. Share this video. Help people learn about stonecoatcountertops.com. That really helps us out. Thank you so much for all of your support. And we also appreciate all the pictures that we get from our customers and our new friends. Keep sending us those pictures. And if you'd like to see what our customers produce, go on stonecoatcountertops.com and look under the gallery. We have just unlimited amount of things that people have made, and I got to tell you, our customers are making stuff that is cooler than what we are. So congratulations. Thank you again for your support, and visit us at stonecoatcountertops.com.